Engaging personalities. My name is Anders Belanger. I hope you're having a great day here, and thank you for joining us on this live stream. We're going to be talking to a man I met a number of years ago, going back probably 13 years or so. And I'm going to, I can hear him. We're going to bring him in. His name is Jack Turk. He is the world's fastest copywriter. And Jack, welcome to the show. I want to say it's so great having you here because of you that I was able to train with Joel Bauer and learn about trade shows, which built my career. So thank you so much for putting that event on a number of years ago, and welcome to the show.
Oh, Anders, it's an honor and a joy to be here. I mean, what you just said, that's one of the most rewarding things about having done that event with Joel, is just seeing careers flourish and blossom from that single event, and meeting great people. I mean, it was just packed with amazing individuals.
It is, and I still talk to a number of those guys too, right? So it was great to be a part of that, and again, thank you for putting that on.
Okay, what a joy!
For sure. Oh. So Jack, we haven't seen each other for a very long time. So I've been seeing you on LinkedIn posting, copywriting tips, and it kind of gave me this idea that I'm like, I want to reconnect with you. And also because now my company Engagify, we're all about making people and events more engaging. And I think there's nothing, like the written word, that's what copywriting is about, isn't it? Like, engaging people's minds and getting them to think along the lines that you want them to think. For those of you who aren't, familiar with the idea of copywriting, because it's an art and a science, I'd say. What would you say? What is copywriting, Jack?
I believe one of the greats of might have been John Caples, or I think his name's Kennedy. Or somebody once said that copywriting is basically salesmanship in print. So what it is just the ability to persuade someone else that the product or service that you're offering is absolutely in their best interest, will provide transformation that can change their lives in a positive manner, and to do it in an authentic and from the heart way. I mean, I think the best, and honestly, I'm a big fan, I'm a big proponent that I'm a professional copywriter and people hire me all the time, but I'm a proponent for like small business owners and entrepreneurs. You are the best person to write your own copy, because you can speak. I know, Anders, you can speak from the heart as to what you provide, the service you provide, the quality of it, and how it can really make a difference, a positive impact in their business or their life. Far better than hiring me from the outside to come in and try to divvy up all that stuff and put it back together again in a fashion that makes sense. You can explain it better than anybody.
Right, because you're so much more connected to your customers too, right? You understand, I mean, the education process of getting your copywriter to understand what it is, the situation is sometimes a lot of the work. So Jack, how did you get started in copywriting? What brought you into this world?
Well, I got involved in writing back in college. I started off in technology. I was going to be a chemist in paper science. Because I could get a tuition. I got a scholarship. They paid tuition, so I thought, I'll go into paper science. And while I was doing that, I got involved in a radio comedy group at Western Michigan University. And so I started writing comedy on the radio for the student station. And one of the guys is Tim Allen from Home Improvement. Yeah.
I saw that on, what was it? Was it on Facebook or something? You were on I don't know, was it a set of an old set of Tool Time or of Home Improvement?
I've known Tim since the 70s, and I actually hung out with Tim. I appeared on television with Tim back, what was it, 77 at 1 o'clock in the morning on a crappy TV show in Battle Creek, Michigan.
Well, 1 o'clock in the morning, that's all you had to say. We knew it was crappy, right?
It was, a long way from prime time. we were beyond, the not ready for primetime players. We were the not ready, not even close to being ready for primetime players.
Right.
But I've been friends with Tim forever, and I left chemistry and got into English as a major. I minored in mathematics, so I had that sort of built up, all those credits. And I got into leaving college. I got into technical writing. So I spent most of my career in the software industry doing technical writing. I wrote manuals and help files. I eventually wound up at Microsoft, where I worked on the multimedia Windows project. I wrote the very first help file for Windows Media Player. I worked on the very first documentation for Windows Video for AVI. I wrote the very first programmer documentation for AVI. Then I was a project manager. I did games. I was a game designer for a while. I did documentation. And on my 50th birthday, I left Microsoft. My boss came in and hung up like a little "Happy birthday, Jack," thing. And I said, "Hey, shut the door, Alan. I'm going to talk for a second." And I quit to become a full-time magician. And as you know, that's how you kind of, I became a full-time. So I actually had two businesses. I was like a magician. I was doing primarily kid shows. And so this is why I have this guy here, because I did lots of kid shows and lots of balloon animals. I did thousands of kid shows. I mean, thousands and thousands and thousands of shows. I got really good at marketing. I was really good at marketing myself. I'm a pretty good magician. I mean, I'm a good entertainer. I don't know if I'm a great magician, but I'm a pretty good entertainer. I was really good at marketing myself. And I also had a business helping magicians like you market themselves, market their services, get out in front of more people, which involved copywriting. And so I did a lot of copywriting, and people started noticing. And eventually I got hired by GKIC, which is a company Dan Kennedy started.
Right. Now let's just time out for a quick second there, Jack, because that's a big deal, right? And Dan Kennedy, in terms of copywriting and marketing, that he's kind of like a legend, right? In that space. And people who aren't familiar with direct response marketing, that's kind of, if you go to marketing in university, you're not going to learn about, direct response really, right? You're not going to, that's a different world, and you won't know who Dan Kennedy is. But Dan Kennedy, of course, and GKIC is kind of, that's kind of the members organization, right? So anyways, that's a big deal. And companies, I remember one time someone saying that they don't teach copywriting and direct response in university because everyone's too busy making money that no one wants to teach it, right? The good people know about it. So anyways, I just want to bring that, because bring that to people's awareness. If you're in marketing and you don't understand that, there is this kind of, it's almost underground. So tell us more about your experience there and continue. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. Well, I got in. I'll be honest. I give great credit to Dave D, who's been my mentor. Dave is another magician. And he learned from Dan Kennedy how to market his services, got really good at it. Eventually he started off the Magic Marketing Center, which is like, built the business of selling things to magicians and how to market themselves. And I basically sent Dave a lot of money and learned from him. And eventually he started noticing I'm pretty good at this. And so he started sending me money to do stuff for him. And I kept doing more and more stuff for him, as well as I bought the Magic Marketing Center. I bought the list. Honestly, I bought the list of magicians, grew that from under 1,000 to 1,500 worldwide, added more products, added more things, did some events, and kept working with Dave. And Dave got hired by GKIC to be the head of marketing, and he brought me on board. I did like a little test run of some stuff, copy, and I passed, and he brought me on board to be the head of copywriting. I was the chief copywriter for GKIC from 2012 to 2015. So it's essentially, have you ever heard of Robert Ringer's leapfrog principle, which was, you don't have this notion that you have to work in the trenches forever and ever and ever and ever and ever and gain your cred and be approved by all the powers that be, and eventually they'll reward you. I didn't do that. I knew somebody and I showed I could deliver. And so I went from like nobody to actually getting pretty good street cred. I'm almost, Dan's a legend. I'm kind of a pseudo legend. I'm a legend in my own mind.
Secret, right? That's how best kept secret in the copywriting world. No, I want to talk to you about your world's fastest copywriter. Who wrote that headline, or who wrote that?
Well, I picked that up. I actually was told by Dave that this is something I should embrace because I am extremely fast. I was the fastest writer at Microsoft. We used to average, I ran documentation groups. I managed writing teams, and we used to, in order to estimate like how long it took to write a manual, like for Flight Simulator, you had to estimate how many days it took to write 200 pages. And typically the average writer at Microsoft was maybe 1 page a day. I was 8 to 10 pages a day.
Whoa. Wow.
So I was 8 to 10 times faster than the average writer at Microsoft.
Yeah.
And I believe I am one of the fastest copywriters out there right now. Dan, of course, is amazing, and I'm not going to say, but at this point in time, and Dan doesn't do it anymore, so I guess I can embrace that title.
You have it.
He may have been, but at this point, and I don't say I'm the world's greatest copywriter. I write very good copy though, and I write it quickly, and I think anybody can write quickly.
Okay, so let's talk about that because one of the reasons, like I said, for bringing you on was that I think if we thought a little bit more like copywriters think, people would hang on our words a little bit more, right? They would want to know what it is that we know. They might want what it is that we sell. Maybe if you are an entrepreneur who's doing the copy on their website, there's something that can be done and learned from you here. Do you have, some takeaways or some tips for us to kind of maybe improve how we frame ideas, how we talk about things so that we can engage the minds of our prospects?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there are 3 keys to writing faster. The first key is mindset. You have to believe that you can write faster. If you believe in your head that I have to carefully craft every single sentence, every single paragraph, every single page, every word has to be very carefully identified and wrestled with, and etc. It's slow. That's nuts. Because the truth of the matter is, nobody knows how good your copy is until you send it out. You don't know until you send it out and test it. So it's very important to get it done, to get your copy done. And one of the best ways to ensure you get your copy done is to set a specific deadline. Have a very real, hard and fast date. At this time, I will have this written, come hell or high water. And so it's the part of the mindset is a shift in your thinking that, and I think it frees you. You are not a writer in doing copy. You are not a writer. You're not sitting there waiting for the muse to come on down from high and bless you with wisdom and charisma and the gift of gab in order to produce the most effective, eloquent copy on the planet. You are a project manager in charge of a piece of copy. So you are not writing copy, you are assembling it.
What you're saying, Jack, reminds me a lot of the tech world that you know so well, of this like, hey, we're going to put this out, and then we'll update it, right? We'll see how it is. You get the feedback, you beta test it, and I do remember something that Joel Bauer talked about in a squeeze page one time about a video that he's like, hey, leave your information here, in this box. And the box was actually on the other side of the video, the way that the website is laid out. Right? And when they tested it, it turned out that when it was wrong, people, I don't know, they're like, oh, that poor guy, he doesn't know which side of the box on, I'll fill it out. The compliance or the conversion was higher when he was pointing to the wrong side of the screen. So, that reminds me of like you said, don't try to make it perfect, just get it done. You might stumble upon something that does convert higher, and if you would have edited that part out, it might have actually undermined its effectiveness. Is that the case?
Right. Exactly. You don't know. when you test, the people agonize over headlines, and I'm a big fan. You have, the headline is incredibly important, and you need to have great headlines. However, you don't know if it's a great headline.
Mm-hmm.
You can't tell. You just can't tell until you put it out there in the marketplace
Okay.
and see what happens.
I got a question here, Jack, from Corey. When it comes to product copywriting, what are some key things you want to touch on to make it effective? So writing about a product specifically, I guess, in some ways.
It's very important that you frame. You make, this gets into sort of, it's copywriting 101, but it's always good to keep remembering it. The difference between features and benefits. That when you lay out the features of a product, like say, well, here's my balloon doggy, okay? My balloon doggy, it's made from ceramic and it's red and it sits on my desk really nicely, can hold down papers, et cetera, et cetera. None of that's interesting, but it doesn't really matter to the person seeing that. What matters is that it's ceramic, so it's cool to the touch and has a nice glow in the sunlight, and it just looks really cool, and you're proud to have it on your desk. And has some weight, so papers won't blow away even if the window's open and there's a heavy breeze outside. It'll keep it down, so you don't have to worry about chasing all the papers around. So in essence, make sure you include the benefits in emotional terms of why. Here's what it is, and here's why that matters to you. Here's what it is, here's why it matters. And it's very important product copywriting that you always think, which Dave taught me this, and I'll give him credit again. It's like, after you say something about a product, add in your head, which means to you, ding, ding, ding. So always make sure you add that, which means to you.
Adding that relevance piece, right? Why? What's in it for me? That whole, why should I care? Always assuming that your prospect, is like, so what? So what? Right? That you keep backing that up. Okay. Very good. Now we've been talking, and I think talking about this reason why, you were talking about the what of the, describing the features, and the advantages or the benefits were really the why. Is that kind of a way of putting it? Okay. So in terms of us wanting people to, if we spoke in copywriting a little bit more, or we're just thinking about our marketing on our website or whatever, we need to just make it benefiting the prospect all the time. Is that, a way?
Absolutely. When I was doing, and I had a pretty advanced online strategy for marketing my services as a magician. I had, depending on I did Google AdWords, and depending on the keywords people chose, they went to a different website that was each was similar. They're all based on the same core copy and same template, but they all had different angles. So if you typed in magician, you'd go to a site which was pretty much generic magic for all occasions, weddings, birthdays, funerals, hangings, all those things. If you went to children entertainment, you'd went to a different site which included birthday parties, but also had school shows, whatever, other club shows, boy and girl clubs, that kind of stuff, But if you had birthday parties, then you had a specific site for birthday parties. It was all about the birthday child. And the thing that and the birthday party site, which I think I was really effective at, I basically I understood who my customer was. And that was really critical. I wrote a letter to a woman, probably mid 30s or so, professional, works, basically works a lot of hours, very career oriented, but loves her child, totally passionate about her child, and probably feels a little guilty that she can't spend as much time with them as she wants. And it was really important also to note that as a children's entertainer, I'm just kind of getting, this is very specific, but as a children's entertainer, you are asking someone to trust you to come into their home to interact with their children and their friends' children. That's a high level of trust. That requires a high level of confidence in your integrity and professionalism and, character. So you have to make sure you address that fear. If you don't do it, you don't necessarily, and that's something you gotta be very careful about, particularly in that market, that you don't want to kind of just throw it out there like, hey, I'm not a child molester. It can't be quite that blunt.
Yeah.
but you've got to be, that thought's in their head. So you have to make sure you
Right. So
comfort
so
them.
that makes me think too that, to have that relevance, not only just, what do they want and speaking in terms of that outcome, but also pacing the pain or the challenges and the thought process that they're going through, right? Because
Mhm.
they're reading that copy on your website in an email and they're going, yeah, that's me. Yeah, no, I do think like that. That is a concern of mine.
Mhm.
They are then almost giving themselves over to you in a certain way because they're just like, he gets me, right? And that,
Mhm.
so so is that the kind of the formula that you use, Jack? Kind of like, what is the pain? Addressing that, I understand you, and then moving to a solution piece. Is that kind of typically how you write, or is there different ways of doing it?
There are a number of different formulas. That's a very effective. That is essentially problem, agitate, solve,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a very effective formula. Um, Basically, you identify the problem they're feeling. Hey, I'm going to give the same example of the birthday. Hey, it's Johnny's 5th birthday, and you love him so much. You can't spend as much time as you want to, but you really want to make this 5 is a really special day. You want to make sure it's really special, and you want to make sure he feels like he's the king of the world on that special day. But you don't know. It's really hard to choose what to do. You go to Chuck E. Cheese and you got like 50,000 other children jumping in the balls, and like you don't know, it's chaos, and
Yeah.
you can't keep track of them. And I mean, you just pound. Then you pound. And what do you do to find a birthday party entertainer? Where do you go? There, you search the web, and there's so many different things. You don't know what you're gonna. How you can trust them? How they're going to be there on time? How they're going to actually be effective? And then you solve it. You solve it. Well, hey, here's proof. Blah 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 blah. One of the great additions that I think I heard from Dan Kennedy: problem and agitate. And then the way you put it is like you take the knife and you stick it, you twist it. You got to twist the knife because you really don't be don't be don't hold back. Don't hold back.
Claudia is saying, great topic, gentlemen. Affect, problem, agitate, solve. Yeah. So
Yeah.
because if it's not a big deal, they won't be propelled to take action, right? If it's not bugging them enough, correct?
Right. And another, I'm going to stick in one little additional nugget to problem, agitate, discard. So then you go when you discard. Discard is, here are all the other options you have. And I did that again kind of initially with my concept about, well, you can take them to Chuck E. Cheese. What happens to Chuck E. Cheese? You get crappy pizza. You got 40 kids trying to keep track of 40 kids in a room full of like 175, and you don't know where anybody's at. And so you discard other potential solutions.
It's an apple versus oranges kind of comparison in a sense, right? Okay.
Right. And so then you offer up, here's the solution. Here's what I have to offer for you, because I've thought all this stuff through for you. I had lots of moms when I was talking to them, they'd say, wow, your website was so informative. And all it was a letter. It was, I didn't have my first page first page was just a letter. I had a page of testimonials, and I had a frequently asked questions page. That was it.
So now
that was my website.
Claudia also says aggressive and or assertive, prompt to action equals essential. So I'm just wondering, I'm not too exactly sure what she's saying here, but I want to address this kind of, if you're agitating, and I don't know if this is what she's getting at, you got to watch that tone though, right? In terms of, like you calling people's baby ugly, if you know what I mean, like that's kind of tough to do sometimes, right? So, and then the prompt to action, I mean, that'll be the call to action I'm going to get, but Can you just talk a little bit about that piece too, of like, we're the agitation, we're discarding, we're doing all of that, but how do we kind of not tick them off at the same time as, agitating?
The key is to come through that you're on their side,
Mm.
and that you have to be on their side. You have to. It's not like you're not trying. Honestly, I thoroughly believe. I believed I was like one of the best children's entertainer in my region. I believed that. I knew it. I still think if not the best, one of the best. And I believed with total confidence and integrity that someone hires somebody else, they had a potential of having a bad experience, or at least a less than optimal experience. And therefore, I had no problem taking the side of the customer and saying, hey, here's stuff you got to think about.
Mm-hmm.
You don't do it like, hey, you're an idiot if you don't think about this. You don't do it in a harsh way, but you just like you, if you were, I've heard, if you and I were sitting face to face and I had something that you really needed and I knew you needed it, I would be remiss if I didn't do what I could to be persuasive and compelling and attentive and caring to help you solve the problem.
Yeah. And Claudia just commented again, understanding through relatability, commonalities. I think it is that passion, right? And this and the empathy that you're talking about, that you're able to come across the way you want to be, right? Without it going too far.
Empathy is, I think empathy is like one of the greatest traits of a great copy, that you really do appreciate the hardships, the pain they're feeling. I mean, it's really important to think through your customer. Like I've heard it put, I forget who told me this one, may have been Dave, may have been Dan, but you want to ask yourself, what are their hopes? What do they hope for? What are their dreams? What do they really dream could happen? So that's the transformation. That's the transformation you can provide. What do they fear? What are their fears? What's keeping them awake that they worry about? And what's their pain? What pain are they going through? So hopes, fears, dreams, pain. Think about that in the context of your customer.
Now, there's something that we talked about just a brief bit ago, and it kind of reminds me. You said your website was, a frequently asked question, a sales letter. I think you said there was something else there. There wasn't, testimonials, of course, right? Testimonials are a huge thing. We should talk about that. Let's circle back on that. But what I want to say is sometimes form and function, right? That, something that is high form, it looks beautiful, it's not as effective. And when we look at copywriting, we're looking at the function of it, making sure it converts, that it works well, and it's tested. Can something be beautiful? And, is it on two, is it a scale like this? Or do you think there can be, high form, high function happening? What are your thoughts?
That's kind of an ongoing debate that I've seen in copy. I know Dan is a big fan of, well, he has stated he's a fan that ugly sells. And there is some data that ugly does sell.
Goldenrod, that yellow paper. Right?
Yeah, paper. On the other hand, I don't know. I think you want. I personally, if I've got a toolkit that I sell also, and I built the web page and everything else using templates and all that. And I tried to make it look nice. Yeah. I didn't go crazy hiring a graphic artist. I probably could have, but I think it works. And if you see my LinkedIn stuff, which is like I've kind of gone into like a graphic novel sort of a comic book sort of branding these days is what I've been doing now, because I like the look, and I don't know if it's like professional, but I like the look, so I'm going with it.
Yeah, and it's different, right? That's a big piece of it too, right, Jack? Is that you want to have something that stands out from everything else, right? So I'm just pulling up here. Let's I just want to see one of your posts just as an example here. One sec. Okay, where are they here? Here we go. Activity. See how activity, and then I will throw this up. Okay, so here's one that's just real quick. Is right here. So it's just, you got a picture of be a student of infomercials. This was just a day ago, right? That kind of idea. Let me see if there's another one here. Here, where are no posts, right? That'll be. So yeah, here's a better example right there, where it's like, so you're basically using the word bubble to get your tip or point across, right? And then using some kind of cartoon or picture, which is different, right? And it's you're using images and standing out like that. Yeah. Now, one of the things you talked about too on your website, and I just want to make sure we put this up before too long. You have a gift for people. And let me make sure I get that up, and I just want to pop this up there. So writekillercopyfast.com is your website, and this is a gift. Do you want to describe what this gift is, Jack?
It's a very simple toolkit to help you write headlines quickly. And it has three steps to creating what I call killer headlines. And if you again, headlines are so important for a number of reasons. One, they sell people into, reading your letter. They sell people into reading your postcard, reading your email. And I think they're also great in terms of establishing the big idea for your piece. So it's always good to write the headlines first, because that helps give you a direction to go through. You really want to make sure your piece holds fast to delivering the promise made in the headline. When you make a promise in a headline, you want to make sure that sets the tone for the entire piece of copy. So that's why a headline is really important. In fact, when I write emails, which the subject line is basically the headline, quite often, I don't know what I'm going to write until I come up with a subject line. And the subject line defines what I start writing. Because once I come up with I'm going to write about, I just wrote one yesterday on Mark Twain's sales secret, and basically I told the story of Tom Sawyer and the whitewashing the fence and the sales lessons that are in that, the copy lessons that are in that, which are really good lessons in what Mark Twain wrote like 170 years ago or whatever it was, 100.
Yeah. So would you say that headline and subject line are exactly, parallels, or does if I was writing to, let's say, someone, a sales leader or something, would I want to have something that looked so headliney, or would that almost make it seem too salesy in some ways, right? If you want people to open the email, do you need to use different strategies compared to classic sales letter headlines?
There are a number of ways to get emails opened. That you could just do a whole session on that. And I've learned from Dave's really good at that. Ben Settle. If you want to learn about email, go to Ben Settle. Ben Settle. I'm going to give him credit. He's awesome. And they're very clear. One of the key things of getting emails opened, the best way is that it's somebody who knows you. They know you already. That, if I got an email from you, Anders, I'd open it in a heartbeat. I don't even care what your subject line is. Okay, so that is one of the
credibility built in, right? The authority and credibility built in.
Right there. It's opened. Beyond that, there's different tricks. I use the word trick. I mean, different tricks. One, you can have a very basic subject line was how to do X, and which is like, well, okay, I'm interested in how to do X, or raising a question. Would you like to blank? So there's asking a question that people respond to questions. Just something weird like the balloon dog they ate in Manhattan, just something. So those are three different ways to get emails opened, and it's marketing via email is a very complicated subject, and The subject line though is really, really important. And
Mhm.
it's good to mix them up. I don't have I do a lot of product launches. I've done a lot of product launches both for myself and for GKIC and for Dave and all kinds of people. And it's really, I think when you're doing it, it's a series of emails. You want to mix them up. You don't want them all be the same. You want the subject lines to be different because you never know what, again, and you don't know.
Yeah. You know, Jack, we were talking about Joel because that's what, brought us together. And so Joel just posted a few comments here. So I love you both. Missing you, Jack.
Dude.
And they have no idea what they're receiving for free here. So, and this is kind of what I was kind of getting on beforehand. Copywriting is so powerful, so potentially profitable if you understand it, you do it right. That this is what's selling everything online right now, isn't it? Like on websites and everything. That copywriting kind of makes the sales world go around.
Oh yeah, it's what's and it's I really believe it's just communicating with people from their own best interest.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it really the most. I mean, if you're trying to pitch crap to people, you're pitching crap to people. But if you're really saying, "Hey, I can solve a problem. You got a problem. I understand that problem. I understand you. I understand what this means to you, and I have crafted a solution to help you get through this."
Mm-hmm.
I think that to me, that's the essence of of great copy, is that you really are coming from a place of integrity and heart, and you want to help you really want to help people. You really want to make a difference in their life.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have a great heart for small businesses. I just love small business people. I think entrepreneurs are like the backbone of the economy,
Mm-hmm.
and I just love anybody who takes risks and wants to get out there and abandon ship on their steady paycheck, which who knows how steady it is anymore.
Right.
You know,
There's
so
something about small business too, like you were saying. I mean, you can bring authenticity through more easily somehow when you have a leaner, more agile company, perhaps, as opposed to the big, Goliaths out there. Do you know what I mean? Like there's something about that it allows people maybe to connect with the product or company a little bit more. Would you say, or what's your thoughts?
I think what's really the biggest advantage you have as a small business is that you can let you come through,
Mm-hmm.
and you are the brand, and your life, your personality. I think so many people screw up their opportunities with writing copy because they want to sound like Coca-Cola, or they want to sound like Merrill Lynch, or they want to sound like whomever, Chase. And instead, that's the absolute wrong thing to do. You want to sound like you. You offer something that nobody else can provide. You offer you.
Yeah.
And yours is like unique, special, you know? And nobody else can offer Anders. You can offer Anders alone.
Mm-hmm.
And what you have is, priceless. So don't try to sound like somebody else. Sound like you.
Yeah, and Claudia, who's been commenting lots, thank you, Claudia, for that. Small business and entrepreneurs are the answer to growing in creative ways with meaningful relationships. I think relationship is probably a key word there, that the relationship feels more connected, more authentic in some ways, that smaller piece. We do have another comment here too, Corey. When sending a blind email about your product, do you go off the pyramid premise of most important from top down, or follow a story of issue to solution? So telling a story, or do you hit the headline and write it like a journalist might? I'm gonna think.
I think if it's a blind email, you tell a story.
Yeah.
In fact, I think if it's not a blind email, you tell a story. Anyway, tell a story. If there's any area that I think I fail at, or I need to grow as a writer, it's I don't tell enough stories. You need to tell stories. People are sucked into hearing when you say, "Hey, let me tell you a story." We can't help ourselves. We can't help ourselves. And narrative is how our brains are wired. Narrative enables us to look at the world and put meaning into the world, put meaning into the context of all the chaos around us. Narrative provides structure and security
Mhm.
So by providing narrative, providing story, providing meaning, you build a bond, you provide credibility, and you actually are able to communicate more effectively with people.
People go into their right brain, right, when a story happens, and then they can't kind of be as critical or analytical as they would be if they have their left brain. So it's kind
Oh,
of it's like a hack, right, to tell that story, and then they get swept away, and then
yeah.
they're unconscious is doing all kinds of things. So
They
yeah,
got to hear the answer. They got to hear the ending. They got to find out how it works. What it means. So yeah, absolutely. Tell more stories. If you walk away from this little interview or whatever with anything, tell more stories.
yeah. I want to touch. I think we'll wrap this up shortly here, but I want to touch on that story piece because I have a little bit of a pet peeve in corporate. Everyone's like, "Well, we want to tell this story," but usually it's just a bunch of messaging points, right? Just a bunch of, it's not really a story, but story has become so hot in marketing and in it's like a buzzword now, right?
Yeah.
What, in your opinion, Jack, what kind of beginning, middle, end, I don't know how you want to cut it up, but for you to call a story in terms of marketing, in terms of copywriting, what does it really need?
Well, I'll go back. I'll start with what I saw. One of the best definitions of a story I ever heard was uh, introduce the hero, put him up a tree, throw rocks at him, get him out of the tree.
Mhm.
That's a story, And so you have to, and in writing and story for copy. I think the book Story Brand is great, and so I can't think of the guy's name. Russell. Yeah, Don Miller. Yes, great book. Get the book. He's excellent. Um, it's just I think I'll give you the other key writing tip that I loved. I
Mhm.
love the book. I love this tip. I forgot this was buried deep within Dan Kennedy's archives of vast wisdom and knowledge and whatever. I encountered this one sentence, and he said, "One of the reasons I'm an effective copywriter is because I say interesting things in interesting ways."
Mm.
And if there's any editor you should have running in your head as you're writing a story, as you're writing copy, it's, am I saying interesting things in interesting ways?
Mhm.
Apply that filter.
Yeah. And I mean, that goes as far as telling stories just verbally too, right? Saying
Mhm.
interesting things in interesting ways. You might find yourself telling more stories just thinking like that, which might help your writing, which might help expand it.
Right.
Jack, thank you so much for taking the time to come on here and answer questions, give us some ideas about how we can improve our copywriting, our marketing, our sales letters, our emails, all of that. I still have that right down here, Write Killer Copy Fast, 3 steps for writing headlines. Is that what it was? More
Yeah.
effective headlines?
Yeah.
Yep.
Toolkit for writing headlines. Yep.
Do check that out if any of this interested you. And Jack, thank you so much for coming on. And any final thoughts, any final words before we end?
Just the bottom line. You can write. You can write better than anybody else. If you can talk,
Yeah.
one-on-one with somebody and say, here's why you should hire him. Here's why I am the best solution. If you can just express your passion for your product and your passion for solving the problems that the customer is facing, you can write a sales letter. You can
Right.
write a sales letter. You can write great copy. No problem.
Good. All right. Okay. Thanks, Jack. Appreciate it. Take care. See you, everybody.
Good talking to you. All right. Bye-bye.